Hi, everybody. Welcome to Unreal Engine 5.2. This is going to be a very simple introduction video on how to set up your own project, get started with the controls, and go over the basic user interface of Unreal Engine 5.2. So once you go ahead and launch Unreal Engine 5.2, you're going to be greeted with this screen right here, which is asking you what project you want to start. So you can come in here to games, and it'll have all the different games kind of genres that you can start from. Film, video events, architecture, automotive design, and of course simulation. So this pretty much has everything you could need kind of ready for you to use. So we'll go ahead and start with first person. So I'll click on first person. And then what we're going to do is pick where it goes. And then we also have what the project name is. So we have where our project location is and then our name over here. So I quickly change that and then I'll click on this over here and change this. We'll just call this test level or a test project or whatever you want to call it. You have a couple of choices here. We can either be a Blueprint project or a C++ project. Let's start with Blueprint because that's the easiest to use right now. And we can always add C++ later. So that's really useful. Let's go ahead and click Starter Content, which is going to give us a couple of things to put down just so you can see how to use objects, manipulate them, stuff like that. But other stuff you'll probably want to get from the marketplace or model yourself in Blender, 3D Studio Max, or Maya. Let's go ahead and hit create. All right, after it loads, this is what you're going to be left with. So this is just the first person template map, which we're going to be looking at and messing with. So first of all, navigation controls. Unreal Engine uses first-person shooter controls. So what I mean by that is it uses WASD and the mouse. So if I hold down the right mouse button, I can actually move my camera. And if I hit W, I can fly forward, S to fly backwards, A to fly left, D to fly right. And you need to always hold the right mouse button down. Otherwise, nothing will happen. So if I hit Q with the mouse button down, I'll go down. And if I hit E, I'll go up. So I'll just go straight up and down with Q and E. And W goes forward, S backwards, A, D, right? Okay, so that's pretty simple for navigation. Let's go ahead and look at a couple things we can do. So let's say you're coming into Unreal Engine 5.2 from Unreal Engine 4. So one of the things you're not used to is this new interface. So you can actually change that to make it look just like Unreal Engine 4 if you want. Right now, this is the default Unreal Engine 5 one. And so you can see you have your content drawer down here, which is just like Unreal Engine 4, except it pops up and down. But if you want to change it, you can go to Window, and you can go Load Layout, and you can go UE4 Classic Layout, and that'll switch it back to this one. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and look around at what we have here. So what we have in our scene is we have a player start, which is something you'll always need to put down. And then we have a weapon over here that we can pick up and then some things we can interact with. So let's kind of look at that. So if you notice when I clicked on the player start button, this whole interface lit up over here. With the properties, we can actually adjust stuff over here. Now, obviously, these are all going to be different depending on which object you have selected. So for right now, these are just for the player start and stuff. Okay. So down here, we have our content browser, which is just like Unreal Engine 4, the different folders we have here. And of course, what's loaded, which right now we're in the architecture folder. Over here on this side, we have this is going to be one of our quick access menus, so we can actually grab actors, character spawns. This is where we can get our lights from. So we can pretty much get a lot of fast stuff that we might need from this little box right here. Everything we're going to need is in there. Up here, you have your standard file, edit, window, tools, blah, blah. Over here is everything. This is called the outliner, and everything in your scene shows up here. So if you want to select something, you can double click it and you'll zoom in on it. So like I just zoomed in on that piece. And you can, so this is how you can easily select everything. And then you can just hit, like you don't need it anymore, you can hit delete or Control Z to bring that back. Okay, so that's kind of some very simple getting into Unreal. So let's actually start putting down things and making a new level, so that way you can get comfortable with that. So to make a new level, what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, new level, and it's going to ask you what type of level you want. Open world is going to give you a pretty much infinite space. An empty open world is going to give you an empty infinite space, a basic, and then of course completely empty. So let's just do basic real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create. So this gives us this nice flat level, and a couple of things are automatically put down for us because they're just kind of placed with this level default. If you do an empty level, they won't have anything in it. It'll just be completely blank for you to do whatever you want with. So we have our lights here. We've got our skylight. We've got our sky atmosphere. And of course, all volumetric clouds, which are making everything that we need. Okay, so a couple things we need here. We need a player start to come out. So I'll go ahead and put one right there. So if I hit play, I will now spawn right there. I'm actually in the game now, in the world. Okay. Now let's go ahead and start putting stuff down. So you can always see which way your player is facing by that arrow. Okay, so that blue arrow is which way they're facing. So I'm going to be facing that way when I come back, which is the x-axis. So let's go ahead and put some stuff that way. So if you want something to drag it out, so if I just go to my content folder, this is everything inside of our project. So if I go to starter content, then we have a couple things like architecture, which we can put down. So we have a 400 by 400 wall. So I'll go ahead and put that down. And that just gives us a basic wall. If I tap the space bar, it'll allow me to change what tools I'm using. So you can see I went from movement to scale to, from movement to rotation to scale, I'm sorry. So movement, rotation, and scale. Now you can scale on an individual axis like X, or you can scale on all of them by grabbing this middle piece and scaling. And that pretty much works on all objects for the most part. So you can see I put down that wall. What I'm going to grab next is this wall door 400 by 400. And I'm just going to snap it to this one. Except, of course, I've changed that one, so I'll drop a new one down. Okay, so that goes ahead and gives us a little wall right there. And that's essentially, we're just kind of building a very, 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 very fast house, right? So now what we can do is we can duplicate our objects. So to do that, I'm going to select this green one, hold Alt, and drag, and that means it's going to duplicate it on the green axis, or whichever axis whichever arrow you pulled on. So I happen to pull on Y. So that's why it's green that way. So that gives me a duplicate piece, and you can see everything snapping. Everything's snapping together, which works really, really well as long as everything's like, you know, an easily snappable part. But let's say you want to move something without snaps. You can do that too, and that's simply by turning off these little blue guys right here. This is showing you have snaps on, so that's snaps for scale, snaps for rotation, and snaps for move. So if I turn that off, I just simply uncheck that and then move this around. You can see it doesn't snap anymore, and it just allows me to place it wherever I want to. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and just finish fleshing out this house a little bit. And once I finish that, what we'll do is we're going to come back, and in part 2, we'll go over putting down lights and putting down props and all of that stuff. So that way we don't have too terribly long of videos. All right, so stay tuned for part 2.